What's up, guys? Matt here from Code Tech and Tutorials, and we need to talk about my game engine, ArcherEngine. No, we don't actually at all. It's just what people say to grab your attention at the beginning of videos, to make you think their video is important and you need to spend your time watching it. Well, I won't lie to you. I will joke with you though. You don't need this at all. You don't need anything. You don't need any of the stuff you absorb online, to be honest. So there you go. Subscribe for more honest. Just kidding. All right. Well, ad time, and I've got a custom ad. Please subscribe to my gaming channel, Merly Gaming. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs, and I will rush making a new Code Tech and Tutorials video as soon as this hits 1,000 subs. So maybe go over there and check it out. Gaming shenanigans. I often do talk about code-related things a little bit here and there, but usually it's just gaming and stuff. All right. Well, that's it. Enjoy. This is a game engine I was working on when I started being a coder and learning graphics. It used to be named Action Archer originally. And it was just, it was a project that I kind of did in college and was just learning OpenGL and trying to get good and stuff, And then I archived that one, started the second version, ArcherEngine. But it's time for the third version. I need a new name. I don't know what to name it. Someone reached out to me via email and said, hey, are you gonna keep this name ArcherEngine because I want to use it? And I was like, I don't know, I'm probably not. And yeah, that's true, I didn't intend to keep it. I don't even know why I called it Archer. I think I was just messing with arrow physics and trying to get it to arc, and for some reason that stuck and that's just what I named it. But I think I'm going to rename it. I have a couple names in mind, but I'm curious if there are any things that people think would fit well for some reason. I've gone over well, I won't hint at my names, but anyway, the point is the video is about, does this still work in 2026? Can you still use this today? Is it still functional? And the short answer is yes. And the long answer is it's a little complicated, but not very. It's actually very reminiscent of, I did a series on the Ogre renderer and getting that to work, and it's kind of the same as that. And I found Ogre to be flawed in that way. I didn't really realize I was developing with the same. They're not actually flaws. It's just the way things work. But it's very complicated for new users. A little backstory. I'll try to make it quick. When I was first trying to use Ogre Engine, I guess we could look that up. Ogre Engine. Oh, yeah, this. Yeah, it's a rendering backend. It does stuff. This is probably more robust than mine, maybe, but this is very dated too. And getting it to work is essentially the same, where you have to figure out how to link every little library. The point is, this is way too confusing. I couldn't figure this out when I was a new coder. Eventually I could, and I made some videos on how to do it. Presumably the only tutorials in the world, because I've never found a tutorial that actually shows you how to get this to work, including getting all the links working and how to fix that stuff that all breaks, because it will. If you follow any of their guides, it will break. You won't be able to get it to work unless you're very well versed in C++ and library world and understand how to fix every error you are presented with. Long story short, I'm not really happy with how my little ArcherEngine is, so it definitely needs a rework. And the main reason I want to rework it is actually because I'm trying to use it for the next thing I'm working on, and I'm sort of seeing the flaws in it while I'm trying to do some real work and actually get something properly working. All right, so let's go. Let's do it. How do we get this to work? Well, I want to say first, you have to address the requirements. It's probably in docs or something. Building for your OS, etc. You basically need a VC package manager. It's just a thing that helps grab all the libraries. You could go manually get all the libraries and set them up on your own or whatever, but this just makes it a bit faster, and it's kind of automatic on Windows, so it's kind of nice to have the libraries on auto. Alright, so with that in mind, I'm going to skip over that whole part. Actually, I've probably talked about it in the past if you look at the old videos of how to use this. But there was some things I glazed over that, you could get the engine running, but if you actually want to use it as your own library, because this is intended to be used as a library for your own project, so you make your own project and then you link ArcherEngine. That's what you're supposed to do. But there are some problems with that don't come up when you're just building this, but they come up when you're trying to make your own project. All right, let's jump into it. So we're going to clone this. All right, I'm not going to go over that either. Clone it, put it in a directory. All right, now in that same directory, I'm just going to go to mine, draggy. I save it in a folder called source, and I've got all kinds of random stuff in there. I've got all these little side projects and stuff, but I have ArcherEngine in here. That's the main thing. Now in that same folder, you could do this somewhere else. You just have to change the directories. So when I'm talking about directories and pathing to ArcherEngine libraries and stuff, that'll change if you put this in different spots. So you have to keep that in mind. I'm just going to make a new project, and we're just going to call this Archer test project, I guess. I don't know why I named it with underscores and nothing else is, but it doesn't matter. It just needs to be in the same directory if you want to follow this exact. Just to reiterate, if you put this somewhere else, your pathing for what I'm about to do is going to be a little different. And we're going to use CMake. If you don't want to use CMake, that's fine. I don't give a shit, to be honest. I don't care. Do what you want with your life. We're going to make a new file. All right, we're going to just make a new text document. We're going to call it CMake lists.txt, and this is going to be our top level CMake. Now I'm going to rip a little bit of code off of a little other sub project I was doing to test this, just to make it faster. So I've been messing with this side project where it's a private repo, so you won't find it, but it's called Underdark Tactics. So the only hint of it at all is you will see a little bit maybe here. I don't know if I'm going to continue this project or not. I actually started this like 6 years ago and never really finished it. So I started messing with it a little more and decided I was going to try to use my engine for the backend. So basically we're going to copy a lot of this because I know that this works as the settings. So of course we're going to need some base stuff, which I'm just going to go ahead and copy over like the CMake minimum version. We're going to put CMake minimum required, whatever version you want. I think that's fine enough. We're going to give our project a name. I'm just going to call this Archer Test Proj, I guess. That's fine, doesn't matter really that much. We're going to need an executable, and it's going to need to at least have a main. That's all we're going to have for now. We need a project name to match on the executable. So what we're going to do here is we got an executable, we got a project. This is all very, very basic, like 101. We're going to add a library as well, and this one is going to be Archer. That's what my engine calls it. The library is just called archer.lib when it builds it. So we're doing static and imported. That's just the way it's built. So we need to set some project properties or target properties about this library to tell it where it's at. And what we're going to say is for Archer, the imported location is the CMake directory, go back directory, then ArcherEngine. Now this is where your project needs to be on the same level, or else it's not going to find it. You're going to have to update this to wherever it actually is. So we're going to only build release here because we're not going to try to debug Archer Lib here, so we're not going to debug. Maybe we want to debug our own program, that's a whole different thing, but if you want to mess around with debug you can. We're not going to. Alright, we're also going to have the include directories, and it's a very similar thing. You just point it to the includes for the library. That's so you can get the headers that match with the lib. We also of course need to link it, so we're going to do that. I'm going to name it our project. Once we add that library and our executable, of course, we can now link our library to the executable. We're going to need a few other things that I'm just going to copy in here. Target link directories. Now this is because this is very specific to the VCPKG, the package manager we're using for ArcherEngine. It's basically, the fact is, when you link Archer, right, to your project, Archer also requires libraries. Now when you build a static library, you can't build other static libraries inside your static library. The other libraries you have to use for your static library are DLLs. Alright? So statics and statics don't all mesh together. If you're making a static library, all the libraries you're linking to it have to be DLLs. Alright, that's an important thing that nobody has ever told me in my entire career or life, and this is probably the first you're hearing it, because that information does not exist out there. You just have to figure it out the hard way, unless you happen to be watching my video. And that's sarcastic. It's probably out there somewhere, but it's true that I never learned it from anyone because no one ever said it. I think most people just don't know, so they don't think to say it. But anyway, the point is we need to know where these DLLs are that are required for ArcherEngine, because we need to link these same DLLs to our new project. Ogre's the same way. Most every library is the same way if it's static. Basically, when we build ArcherEngine, it is going to install all this stuff and set it all up, and this is where it will do it. It's very similar pathing as these target properties. We just need to tell it where those DLLs are for the link and include. And this is just so we can use everything that comes with ArcherEngine. And then we actually need to link all the same stuff. Now this is the same stuff that's linked to ArcherEngine. You also have to link it to your project. This is where a lot of people get hung up because it's confusing. It's like, I can't just link one library and be done. It's like, no, you gotta also link all the stuff that's linked to the static library. And it can get a little confusing. It can be a little difficult. All right, we're also doing a little add custom command here. This is a post build command for CMake. This is kind of a hack. If you're using install, you might be able to get around this because it might automatically move the things you need. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to copy all the DLLs into wherever our project is building, because we need those DLLs to run our executable because Archer's linked and it needs them. That's the whole point. So we put our project name in there, and now we could set, we could go, I believe you can we could macro all these project names. This is, I think it's project name. Is that correct? I don't know. We'll find out. But if you don't want to retype this over and over and only have it in one place, you can just do it that way and not have to type the same thing over. It actually kind of makes it easier for maintenance purposes. Gives them gives the name of the most recently called project name. I guess we do this. CMake project name. I think project name also works. Okay, project name is the current directory or scope. CMake project name is the most recent one. Am I saying that right? But this takes care of our initial CMake, something I toiled over for a long time to get it right. So maybe it'll save someone a lot of time. And that way, if we just change this project name, it just goes through the whole project. Anywhere it says UDT needs to be CMake project name, because that was the Underdark Tactics stuff. We're looking pretty good. So we'll notice that the source is in a source folder. That's, you can do it root directory if you want, but I like to do source and just have a source folder. It makes it a little bit easier. And then we can go in that source folder and make a main. So I'll just make a new, you could do this with command line if you want. Actually, I think we might have to, because Windows is forcing the .text thing. Because even if we do main.cpp, Windows has gotten a little better. It actually changes it. It used to not. It used to be like, oh, it's now main.cpp.text, but it wouldn't tell you that unless you have details and see the details. Some people get caught up on that, oddly enough. I've seen it happen. All right, but now what we want to do is, well, we want to make sure our little Archer lib is built on release, because that's what we're using. So we'll just go here. You could do this before. You could do this in a different order, but we just want to make sure the x64 release is built because we are using the release. We're pointing to it here, you see, pointing to it here. We're just using the release version. If we wanted to do debug, you can make all kinds of clauses to say if debug, use the debug one instead, but we're just not doing all that to save a little time, I suppose. We're just going to change this for a moment to CMake targets view. This will just allow us to see all the different things that can build. You see there's Archer, the static library, there's the editor example and a test suite. And we will just go ahead and build Archer. So I just right click on it in there. And before you go crazy, there are other ways to do it. This is just how I'm doing it. Alright, you can build it all kinds of different ways. You can even do it in the command line. But this is one easy way to do it. And we see down here that the build succeeded, did all the things. Now, because we're using the package manager this will automatically update any libraries that needed updated as well. Let's go back to folder view. And let's just open this in File Explorer. We just want to take a peek at it and just make sure everything looks good. It builds into out, build, x64 release. See, we have this vcpg install, x64 Windows, and lib has these .libs. Now when you link, you have to link to these, but these aren't actually all the library stuff. These are just like essentially header file libs. And that is because they're actually DLLs that are needed at runtime. It's just a whole confusing way of basically being another program that can link to yours. But you still need, if you have a DLL, I guess I'll say this too because this is often not said or known. If you have a DLL, it has to be accompanied with a .lib that is essentially the header file for the DLL. So they come hand in hand. And when you link your program, when you you set up your linking, like this here, these are linking to the .libs. But when it runs, since they are built as shared, at least all these ones here, they need the DLL along with them. And here's that include directory for all those too. So VKPKG, God, I can never say that correctly on the first try, does all this for you for the most part, but you just got to tell it where everything is and kind of have an understanding of it so you know what to do. This here should be good enough. Now, likely there's going to be an error somewhere in here because there always is on the first try, but we're looking good. The ArcherEngine is built and released. It succeeded. Everything looks good. We can just leave this now. We don't need this. We've got what we need. We've got our test project. We've got the setup to say if Archer is in the same directory as this project, link it to our thing. And it also says wherever you're building the executable, copy the DLLs into that too, so it can actually run while you're test building it. Now in a real world scenario, I will just hint at this, I'm not going to give you a big tutorial. You don't need custom command because you'll be using install, and then you'll have, I believe it's dependencies for your target, and it will automatically copy all the dependencies to the same folder. Or it's something along those lines. I might not be saying that 100% correct, but that should get you in the right direction if you're using install. And you might have to do a little hunting around to figure it out. So we now have just a source file, which is absolutely nothing. It's going to open in code automatically because that's how it's set. But we just want to put like a, you know what we could do actually though? We could just go over to GitHub, just go back to ArcherEngine, just like make sure this works. This example initial code right here. You know, it's the same thing. You want the instance of ArcherEngine to be global because it's required for some scripting stuff. But yeah, all you really do is you initialize it with window options if you want, otherwise it'll use defaults, and then you run it. But of course, before running it, you set up everything. And that's basically it. So you can add all your logic in this section and do all sorts of things. All right, well, we have this done. I don't actually want to use Visual Studio Code here, so we're just going to close all that, but we still have our main updated. So what do I actually want to use? I want to just go ahead and use Visual Studio. Visual Studio's pretty easy to use for this sort of thing because it now, at least with the newest version, for the first time ever, when you say open a project or solution, you can just point to a CMake file and it actually works. You used to have to go to like file, open, CMake project, and that was the only way. But now if you say open project and point to a CMake file, it actually opens the CMake file. So that's something they finally added. And you'll see it pulled in our CMake. It did all the things for CMake automatically, and that's just because I have Visual Studio installed with all the CMake stuff checked when I installed it. And you should do the same if you're going to use it. If you want to use CMake specifically with the command line, it's going to be a little trickier because you're going to have to know more commands, but it's just as doable. It's essentially what this is doing just in the background. But you see it finished, it didn't have any errors, and it looks okay. And theoretically, we could run this right now, except we do have to put this in release because in debug, it's not going to find the right libraries. So it's going to have an error for sure. So all we do is we just go to manage configs there and add a new one with this little plus button, and it allows you to pick from a bunch automatically. We're just going to pick x64 release and select that. I don't believe we need to do anything, and it should configure on its own for the most part. But first we do have to save and close this thing, and then when we switch this to x64 release, it should redo the CMake and set up what we need to set up, which is basically going to be some automatic stuff of like figuring out or setting some runtime stuff. And you see we have it ready to run up here, and we can just click it and it should run, but we have an error. So let's address the error. Missing a semicolon, it says, but it's not, so that's a lie. But the real problem is we need to scope this because these are all in namespaces. So that's probably the only problem, and apparently something I need to fix on that README that I didn't realize. And you can see it's actually building. It's taking a minute to link. And is it going to run? Yes. Has default title because we didn't add anything. It's just a blank screen because we didn't do anything. But as you can see, it actually launched the window, and this is all done through the ArcherEngine. Obviously, we didn't add any of that code ourselves. So, yes, it certainly works in 2026. and it works well enough. Now what you'll see, I'll just go over the end here, is if we just open this out.build thing, x64 release, you'll see that it built the project and it brought in all the DLLs. It brought in some extra stuff that we don't actually want, like these. I don't think we need these PDBs. What is Program Debug Database? Yeah, I don't think we actually need those, but they just came in anyway because on our CMake we just said copy directory, and that's just going to copy everything, and it has those little program debug. But I don't believe you're going to need those debug things. If anyone knows off the top of their head how to copy a directory but only certain extensions, I couldn't quite figure it out with CMake. I'm sure it's possible though. But also, if you are doing the install, it shouldn't do that either. But that's just kind of a hack to get it going a little quicker. So yeah, after it builds, it's going to copy those DLLs like I said earlier, and that handles the runtime. We have this release with the bug info. It doesn't matter, I guess. It's not really what I wanted, but yeah, it works. And that is how you get a brand new project running with ArcherEngine as your media backend. So now you could do camera, light, model stuff, sound, animations, controls, lambda scripting, etc. And it all works. Alright, well that's pretty much it. Hope you guys learned something or enjoyed the video. We are back, as they say. But what I'm going to do now is just talk very briefly about the future of this ArcherEngine, which I did at the beginning, but I actually want to tell you the changes I've made. So let's just open it up here. And I've been like kind of trying to fix this to make it more usable, which makes sense, right? I took a long break from it. But one of the things I noticed was that my animation code's not very good. Let's find it here. It's in, I think, scene. I forget, mesh. Yeah, so this mesh has some animation code, and most of this is kind of hacked from learnopengl.com. And sure, they got it working, but it's not perfect. There are some problems with it. And, you know, I kind of made my own iteration of it. It's a little different, but it needs entirely reworked and probably redone because there are some issues that pop up with certain animations. Like, for one thing, I noticed that the way I'm doing the bones was too limited. There's something about these key positions and the way they did all this position and scaling math that doesn't quite work right. So, specifically in these areas where they have assert, there are some position index errors for these on certain animations. That's the main error I've found now, but otherwise it tends to work pretty well. For example, let's just run my little editor example here that comes with it. This is essentially to help debug, because you can't run a library. You have to run a program that uses the library, and that's what this editor does. So I just put in some additional things here. Like if we add in this dude, this little animated model, give it a sec, and we just, you know, back up, take a look at them. It's using the default shaders, so this is what it looks like if you don't change anything with its default shaders. Obviously no background or anything. And we try to add an animation to him. Some of these work, some of them don't. Like we got this, let's do, I don't know, let's just pick one. Let's pick this toss grenade. I don't think I've tested this one yet, but there we go. Boom. Does a little toss grenade animation. It does technically work. As you see, there's some little bug there. I don't know if this is in the animation or if it's my code causing this problem. But as you can see here, there's a blank. There's an area where he just blacks out at the end. I don't know why that's happening. But there are little things like that where this animation isn't perfect. And if you want to test these animations, you can open something like Unreal Engine or Unity and bring in these models and animation there and see how they go. And then you can kind of see if it's the animation that's the problem or if it's your code that's the problem. And for me, it was mostly my code. These tended to work pretty well in Unreal. So it seemed like something with the way I'm doing the code. And now this is all pretty hacked together with like the shaders. Where is that in OpenGL? So I have like these internal shaders that are all pretty hard coded, and they really need updated or fixed or done in a more dynamic way. But that's a whole big job on its own, so I'm not sure if I'm really going to do that. I might just have to analyze it. But part of this says basically the animation math is mostly processed, or at least partially processed, in the shader. So the C++ code sends up all this info, the bone info, and tells it whether it's animating or not. And if it's animating, then the shader code is actually what is making the model look different. So there's a lot of different ways this could go, but essentially we need to think about how we're doing this and make the required fixes. And I'll say once again, this code is mostly, I've retrofitted it to this project, mostly from that Learn OpenGL where they have an animation tutorial. I don't know if they ever fixed it, but that tutorial didn't quite work, so it does require fixes for you even to follow that tutorial properly. It mostly does though. There's only just like a few things that are off, and they should come up in errors when you try to compile that code that they have. They may have fixed. I haven't looked at it in years, honestly, but it was a great place to kind of get an initial finding, but clearly need more of an understanding and to be able to fully reason about what is happening to fix it yourself. But one of the things I had to do was change the max bones to 250 because a lot of animations have more bones. But this seems to be determined, well, at least if you're doing it in a matrix, a mat4 like this, this seems to be determined by your graphics card. So the max size of a 4x4 matrix array is determined, I believe, by your graphics card and graphics driver. So your results may vary. And mine didn't like going above 250. 250 was the max I could push it to. Yours might be lower. You might get an error and have to change this. But you don't only change it here if you change it. You got to go into the code, the C++ code that sends up all this data and links with these shaders and everything, and change it there too. So a lot of changes need to be made to make this ArcherEngine fully usable, but it's getting closer, and I have been toying with it. It's all publicly available, so you can go look at the changes I made if you want, or whatever you want. This is a great bike shedding project, if you will, because there are a lot of things that need addressed, and it's pretty straightforward code. Let's see, what was my last update here? Let's see. Yeah, I've been add a way to test animated models, increase max bone size. I don't know if I pushed these to main yet, but you can go in here and see what you have to change by just referencing where I changed everything. See, there's all these shaders all do a calculation of the bones. So the shaders are like working overtime. They're animating for the shadows, the stencils, and everything. And it's a bit redundant. In the C++ code you see here's where I had to change it, and I just set a max bones variable instead, or constant I believe actually, rather than have 100 just hard coded in. And there we go, and that's the code to, I just added a hacky test to test animations in that sample editor start. Alright, well, that is officially it. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video and maybe learned a little something about C++ and the libraries and all that crap. So we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Take care of yourselves out there. Life's hard enough as it is. Don't stress over the little things. And believe me, this is a little thing. I know it might be hard and complicated, but it's not that important. Alright? Alright. Peace out. Also, I'm considering starting up some coding live streams again. I don't know if you guys are interested in that, but if you are, let me know down below, because I'm thinking I'm doing them like once a week. Try to do like 4 times a month.